If there's one person to ask how to turn self-critique into confidence, it must be someone who dances in front of a mirror all the time. Join us today as Leslie Kuny shares how the art of movement and dance can teach us about resilience, self-love, trust, and leading with empathy and strength. Hi, and welcome to the Scenic Route Podcast, where we believe in embracing life's journey with purpose, curiosity, and a bit of potty humor. I'm Jen, a sociologist, someone's uncool mom, and I'm always looking out for that perfect slice of gluten-free rhubarb pie. Every week, I get the joy of sitting down with dreamers and doers who dare to take the road less traveled in pursuit of their own magic. Together, we dive into the inspiring stories of soulful entrepreneurs and visionary leaders who boldly share their beliefs, lessons, and fuck-ups. Excited? So am I. You're exactly where you're meant to be. And now, let's take this conversation off the beaten track. Leslie Kuny is an award-winning choreographer and dance educator whose mission is to bring joy and passion back to competitive dancers in their community. A graduate of Grant McKeown University's dance program and Simon Fraser's University of Bachelor of Fine Arts, Leslie uses her post-secondary training to foster exponential growth in her students. Over the past 20 years, Leslie has devoted herself to training dancers in a supportive, empowering environment and choreographing for competitive and recreational dance studios, schools, and pre-professional training programs. She has discovered that dance is a training ground for artists and humans, that humor and joy are key factors to achieve greatness and success, and that empowering and equipping dancers with knowledge yields the best results. Leslie, welcome to the Scenic Route Podcast.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's always a pleasure to talk to people who have a completely different background than what I do. I mean, I'm more in I don't know, a head person. So it took me really a while to connect with my body. And having as like a dance educator and someone with like a fine arts degree and dance degree, this is going to be really interesting. And I'd say we're going to dive right into what probably will be the overarching theme today in this conversation is how we can learn to trust like our bodies, the wisdom they carry. And and I mean, I'm not a dance person. Like when I don't know, maybe that's not the right statement. I did figure skating when I was a kid, but I don't know, it wouldn't come easy to me to think like I could like move this out or how could we incorporate dance or simple movements to kind of like, I don't know, reconnect with our bodies. So I'm super excited. Yeah. So what is kind of like from your perspective when it comes to trusting our bodies with decisions? Was that always kind of like an easy journey for you, like working with your body over the years, or you're like, oh, it was a rocky road?
Yeah, I would say the latter. I was like, as soon as you were like, was it always easy for your body? I was like, oh no, that's like a strong no. That has come with like age and wisdom, which I think is something to like keep in mind for like everybody, like, which is so painful, especially when you're like, I want it now. Like, I want to be able to do the thing, but there is something good about that. But also,
but I mean, you're not old. What I mean, old, right?
Bless your heart.
Well, I mean, spill it, sister. How old are you? Do you want to spill it?
I'm going to be brave. I'm going to be very brave. Actually, I just turned, if I vomit, I'll do it off camera. I just turned 40 this year. And even saying that out loud is a little bit uncomfortable
you know what?
In my body.
You know what? We're in the same fucking boat. Yeah. I'll turn 40 this June. So this is a safe space. This is a safe space.
but it's wild too, because like, I don't feel 40. I don't. Even just saying that word in relationship to me and my body, I think I'm just kind of like, it doesn't resonate. 40 still, I think, feels old, and you're like, a 40-year-old should look like this, or a 40-year-old can only do this. And I think where the disconnect comes is that I'm like, I don't feel like my body is a 40-year-old's body. Like, I have kept it moving, and I have tried to be more intuitive, and I look back at photos of my my mom and my grandma when they were 40. And I was like, yeesh. And I'm like, I don't look like that. Like, I don't, not yeesh. My mom is awesome. My mom, I don't want to throw
I know,
her under
but
the
I
bus.
know what you mean. I know what you
But
mean. Like,
it's just changed. So
maybe it was the
like
80s fashion or something, but yeah, I don't know.
And the hair, it was just, anyway, yeah. So yeah, being in my body hasn't always been comfortable, even though I've been in a movement practice like my whole life. And I've done I currently am doing other movement practices besides just coaching, which I primarily do now. So I don't dance really as much, but I found yoga and I was like, oh, this is a space where it's very much like not a performative thing. I'm not looking in the mirror. I'm not getting that like critical feedback judgment from myself. I had a lot of like awareness about my body that came from yoga that I like adored. And now I'm doing I'm more into working out and lifting weights. And I'm lifting weights, which is like wild and like so fun. And also proving to me that like I'm like, oh, I can do hard things. I think that by moving our body and becoming more connected with our body, it gives us proof to our logical brain that we can do difficult things. It's like, it's literally like it's like an experiment and you prove to yourself what you're capable of. And then your brain goes, oh, I can do that. So when you come up with something,
yet.
Yeah. And even like when you come up with something that's like a brain teaser or a problem that you have to solve logically, you can look back at your evidence. You're like, well, I just squatted like 100 pounds the other day. This is not a problem. This I can do. This I can figure it out. If I can do that, I can do this. And that's where I like the relationship of movement in your body to like being able to conquer
and to slowly build self-trust in like, oh, if I can do
big
this,
time.
Then
Yeah. Because I think I'm a human who like really needs proof. Like I'm the kid who in chemistry, I was like, why? But why? Why? Okay, invisible, I got it. Why?
Like, show me. Like, atoms, like, show me.
I live with a civil engineer. My husband is like in the science, like STEM realm. It's like blessed because he's a very accommodating. But I just was like, as soon as I understand why, I'm good to go. And so when you've got that proof and you can look back and say like, I did the thing, I can do it again. That is where the strength to move forward comes, and you can like trust yourself a little bit more each time.
Yeah, that's really interesting that I never really made the connection with, oh, I bench this much, then I can also do this.
Yeah.
I guess my brain's not, or hasn't been wired like this yet.
I am rewiring my brain that way because it's super helpful. Like it's it's a rewire for sure.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know this happens. I mean, for me, it's usually like tied to my chronic illness. Like I have endometriosis. So I'm like, well, like if I could do this, then I'm good. Like I'll survive.
Right. And I think that's really, really important. And it's also how we build resiliency, especially because I work with youth. And that's something that I felt I lacked. Like I had to be perfect or I was trash. And so now I'm trying to build resiliency in youth and also myself, like at the same time, because it works together, where like the kids will be like, I'm nervous or I'm scared to do this. And I'm like, okay. And then if we don't nail it, if you make a mistake or something goes wrong, is like, are you going to blow up? Are you going to spontaneously combust?
Are you going to die?
Is the stage going to like explode? Like, are your mom and dad going to like, just like not take you home that night to your like safe, warm house where people love you? They're like, no. I'm like, right. So we good. And the mistakes help us learn. And like, that helps reframe for them and myself of like, not a catastrophe. If you can do this, you can do that.
Yeah. And I suppose you're never really done working on this, right? You're never really done, right? I don't think there's a moment where you're like, I conquered that mountain, I'm good.
Yeah. You're like, time to kick back and relax. I mean, I'd like to think that, but I think I know a little bit better. As soon as you feel that way, you're like, there's another mountain coming.
Oh,
like,
as soon as you're like, God, yes. And you're feeling too cocky and it's like, wacky over the head. Oh, yes. Oh, God, yes. Karma is a bitch. You said an interesting thing earlier, that I'm kind of like, oh, I want to dive deeper there.
Yeah.
When you said, oh, the critical feedback when you were dancing in front of the mirror, and I'm like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, like, I mean, yeah, I said I did figure skating, which usually wasn't in front of a mirror, except in summer school practice and stuff. But
Yeah.
it was in front of a mirror. So I imagine if you're doing ballet or jazz dance or something that's in front of these huge ass mirrors,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I imagine there are a lot of pretty nasty thoughts creeping up on you. So
Yeah.
how do you deal with that?
I didn't until now. I think because it is such a youth centric thing, and unlike soccer or baseball or some other sports, you aren't subject to looking at your changing body for hours at a time, trying to
Mm.
fit a mold that
And
hasn't
I
really been
suppose a very
updated.
narrow mold, right? I think we have a big expectations or a big ideas of what it means to have a dancer's body or a dancer's
Exactly.
physique and look like a
Yeah.
dancer.
Yeah. Thankfully, the culture is changing, which I'm like very grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is like it's the same with gymnasts or swimmers. A certain type of body type and the way you build your body will help you succeed. That's just where it is. But for youth dance, like we got to train these, we got to let these kids know that like their body is just exactly perfect how it is, and it's strong and it's capable. But you're in puberty, you're like hormones are wild, and you're standing in front of a mirror for hours at a time every week with a whole bunch of other
Mm.
people who are also going through the same thing and having those critical thoughts about yourself, judging others, not out of a mean place, but out of a way to try to build yourself up to find some sort of confidence, some sort of stepping stone to stand on, or comparing,
Mm.
right? Like, oh, that person's leg can go that high, or oh, she's got this sort of flexibility, and it can be really. I mean, it is really detrimental, and it was something that really plagued me. It still plagues me, I would say, because the negative self-talk in whatever you do is so powerful,
Mm.
because regardless of which space you exist in, whether it's you aren't performing, or you work in an office or you work for a municipality or what have you, one thing that goes awry, one thing that isn't quite how you wanted it to be, that just there's something about the strength of that Velcro that sticks
Mm.
to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you need so many more positive Velcro stickies to get
Mm-hmm.
to you.
Yeah, that's such a good visual. Yes.
Yeah. It's like that one negative Velcro sticky is like the
Ugh,
size of
it
your
weighs a
chest.
ton. Mm.
And then the positive ones are like the size of a quarter. And you're like, great. Like, I need so many quarters.
Can someone like give me a quarter, please? Yeah, it's such a good image because I don't know,
Yeah.
we're so wired this way to put so much more emphasis and weight on the negative and use it to reinforce the beliefs we consciously or unconsciously hold of we're not good enough, we're not lovable, we are not XYZ. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
everyone has a different story of why they
Mm-hmm.
believe they can't have nice things or don't deserve a leg that goes up that high or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Whatever it could be. And I think there's a weird programming, and maybe this comes from like a previous culture, socio sort of space that I think we're moving out of, I want to say, where by focusing on the negative, it's going to drive you to be successful. Like, if you know what your flaws are
yes,
and you can
yeah.
figure them out, like, you got to be really self-reflective. And don't get me wrong, I think being self-reflective is very important. In fact, I see some people who are like a little too, and I'm like, you need to reflect a little more. You got to like bring it down, because there's a happy medium to be had. But I do think that comes from a time and a space where we were like, find your flaws, fix your flaws. Like, that's how you're going to gain success, which is true, but it became so heavy and so hard.
Yeah.
That I think that sticks with some of us still, where we're like, oh, the harder I point out those flaws, then the sooner I can fix them. And what really just happens is you just fixate on them instead of fixing them.
Yeah, and end up making them worse, right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes you're not actually fixing anything, or you're fixing that, but you're wrecking something else.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. I mean, this goes to say, this is kind of like very similar to when you look at it from a business perspective. Like, you're always like, oh, if you want to do successful marketing, you have to do like pain point marketing. You have to like tell them what all the things that hurt, so they go buy shit to feel better, right?
Yeah.
And which is very much like how our whole like which is basically capitalism in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And it's so important to be like, you know what, I actually have everything already, or I can tap into everything that to feel whole and to feel safe. And I'm curious, you said you especially are currently working with youth and like teenagers, and I mean, I remember my teenage years were, I don't know, they were weird. Like, on one hand, there were the Spice Girls, and then on the other hand, there was Nirvana, and I was kind of like in the middle. And I don't know, I desperately didn't want to belong to a box, so I kind of made my own box, which was a box again. And I remember it was just weird, right? Like, your body was changing, as you said, the hormones. How do you coach you or young women through this period, especially with dance? Because I remember we had a lot of very like competitive mean girls situations, and I mean, that was in high school. That wasn't then like something like dance where you would stand half naked in front of each other. And like, how do you approach this also when you see it goes into not just like let's say like a healthy sports-based comparison and competitiveness, but it's getting personal. It's getting How do you approach this?
With so much empathy and kindness. I like just like flip the script as much as I can. I've also been teaching dance for close to 20 years. So there's been a lot of trial and error and a lot of like growth. And what I've really recognized is I've taken some of what I needed, and I got a lot of incredible coaching when I was dancing, but it was also the 90s. And that was a very different time and space of like all the things. Oh
God. I mean, it was Kate Moss and Kellogg's Special K for breakfast. I mean, it was wild.
Like, I'm going to have a great, anyway. Yeah. So, there was
I love it that we're the same age and we have the same cultural references.
I know. When I like make a reference and like my kids just look at me, I'm like, oh no. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Oh, the other day it was so bad. I mean, we're getting off topic. We're going back to topic. The other day I was making a reference to a quarter pounder with cheese.
Yeah. No.
And no, Pulp Fiction. Ah, dang.
Yeah. Oh no. I'm with you. But like,
yeah. Okay.
Like,
yeah.
Like
and they were. I got these blank stares, and I'm like, yo, I'm not a boomer. I'm still a millennial. Like, chill.
I know,
like,
right?
What's going on? Holy crap.
Millennial. I think millennial is the new boomer. I know.
I know. It's. I
100%. I want to hide in my sweater as well. I hide my sweater. Like, my kids will tell you I just turtle. I can't do it. I have like a lovely shirt on today, but like I just don't. Like, if there's things I can't see, I'm just like, I gotta hide you guys. And they're like, oh, was it bad? I was like, yeah. I mean, it wasn't great. Let's try again. Yeah. So I just want to I want to flip the script to give and to give what I wanted more of, to give what I now
this is such
that
a great
needed more of. And this is a very like buzzy, hypey sort of thing to talk about, but this whole feeling of like, it's a little gross to say, but like this healing the inner child or just, I don't even want to say healing. I want to say recognizing your inner child. It helps me as much as it helps the kids. So a lot of compassion, a lot of empathy. And I always talk about this, and it's tricky, but the more you can build trust, and I mean like honest trust, and that doesn't come from being just like a hype girl who's like, yeah, slay queen, like you're so great. I'm like, that's awesome, and it makes people feel good.
Yes.
In that moment, but then they're always going to need that. When you can hype them up in a, I see how hard you have been working and you nailed it. I want you to recognize the effort you put in and then the result that you got. And I am so proud because you did not give up on yourself. That sort of coaching.
Yeah.
In any space, whether it's like marketing or sales or whatever sort of like,
yes,
personal sort of relationships you're in, that is so much more valuable. And that builds trust between the two people. And then that person's able to go, yeah, I did that. And they can take like true, they feel confident, and it's not from a braggy or like an over the top sort of arrogant sort of space, but it's also not like false humility either. It's really rooted in, I saw what I did, I put in the work, and I got what I wanted.
Yeah.
Again, circling back to like, then that's giving them proof. And that's how I remind them, I literally, it's so funny. I was just at competition last night. I had two incredible dancers competing in the advanced category. They have never competed in the advanced category before. And they were psyching themselves out before they got on stage. They were like, we're dead. We're destroyed. We can't. And I was like, you guys really need to stop, because this is not helpful. I was like, unless that's how you want to end up. If that's what you think is going to happen, you can have it. But I don't think that's true. You have awesome dances. You have worked very, very hard. And as we were watching the other dancers, I was like, your dances are totally different. They are so different than everybody else on stage. It's like comparing apples and oranges. We've all got the same chance. And that goes the same for people. Like, I'm an apple, this person's a banana, this person's orange, and then there's another passion fruit. Together we make an awesome fruit salad, but we've all got our own thing. We've all got our own strengths that are playing. And they went out, I could not believe, they were up against kids who have been training for like 10 hours, 15 hours a week for multiple years. And these kids like just kind of cranked up to that this year. And they were so, so great. Like, didn't come last in any of their categories. And I was just like, see what you can do. Don't talk yourself out of that success before you go do it. And I was like, hey, so next time, can we like calm down a little bit?
Yeah.
Because we've proven to ourselves, yep, it's hard and we can do it. That's my big thing. I've really tried to take out the word but from my vocabulary.
Yes.
It is very, very tricky.
Yes.
But I go, yes, this is hard. And I believe we can do it.
Yeah.
Yes, this will be a challenge and we'll figure it out.
No, it is so true. Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. And I love that you bring this up, because it's one of the, I don't know, maybe one of the sentences I say to my clients the most. This and that can be true at the same time. It's not this or that. It's not black and white. It's not but, it's and. Because yes, it's hard and you got this. Right? One doesn't negate the other or makes the other less true or less plausible or whatever. It's just and both things can be equally true. And I really love that you said, gonna lead from like a point of compassion, and it really, this is really great leadership advice, what you said there. Like, I kind of look back and wish what I would have like heard or seen or received or felt, which is one, a really humbling experience, I feel, because I do the same whenever I have like a tricky situation, I don't know, that arises when, something went wrong and someone's mad. I'm like, okay, how could I resolve this situation? And then I'm like, okay, if I were that person, how would I want it to have handled or to be handled? And yeah, sometimes I well, and there's still times I miss the mark, but I mean, it's
It's inevitable because we're
yeah,
not that person. But
exactly.
when you can, when you can kind of look at things from the other side of the coin,
Mm,
even if sometimes that might make you a little, it was so funny. I was just talking about this. Even if it makes you a little bit distressed, like I prefer to send emails because it gives me a little bit of space. But
mm,
sometimes I'm like, oh, I have to look at it from the other side of the coin. That person might actually prefer it to be an in-person conversation, even though it's difficult for
yeah.
me. And so, oh, wow. Sorry. I just kind of clicked into that. That's really what leadership is. So sorry. I just had like, you just literally saw me have like a light
Yeah, yeah,
bulb moment
yeah.
of like that.
I saw the penny drop, and I'm like, okay, I want to hear the penny now.
Like that is where I think, and I hope I'm moving a little bit more towards that every day, but that's where true leadership comes from, where you go, this would be the convenient and easy way for me, and this is the way I would like to do it. And sometimes you're going to do that, and see, look, and you've got to turn around and look at the other side of the coin and go like, I think that person would appreciate
Yeah.
this more. And that's where the connection, and that especially when things are difficult, when you are sort of trying to repair something that maybe hasn't felt as good as you'd like it to, or there's a bit of a struggle, or you don't see eye to eye. I think that's very beneficial, and that's true leadership, where you can step away from what you naturally would like to do and step into more power, look at it from the other side and say like, okay, let's come together and like figure this out.
Yeah, this is so true. And it's a really great example to really to live by, and maybe find a better way to like work with our differences, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, to really be like, hey, and I know it's super stressful. Like, I mean, I don't know, the most high stress situations. I mean, I've been in corporate, but the most high stress situations are like, I don't know, when you want to get out of door because of doctor's appointment and if you're screaming 2-year-old. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
just close to losing it. But I mean, now looking back, every time there was this kind of situation, it really also forced me to step up my leadership game, right? Because there
Yeah.
was a default that I wanted to do. My default was to, I don't know, yell at my kid to just get the fuck
Yeah.
moving,
Yeah.
which would not have been helpful at all in the situation. But it took it. I needed space to kind of like have like just a split second to catch myself
Mm-hmm.
and be like, okay, what is actually helpful in this situation?
Yeah.
And at maybe, I mean, there were times when it was like, okay, canceling the plan because this is not gonna work.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if that's an option, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, this is really, I think, yeah, you've said it right. It's penny drop, the true leadership.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's always a work in progress, because
Mm.
you want to be a leader because I mean, at least for myself, like I enjoy being around people. I like taking responsibility. I've always been that kid. I was always like, let's go this way. Like, let's do the thing. Like, I'm the kid you
I'm
can
gonna
watch.
organize the trip.
100%. I'm the
Mm.
kid on stage. We're all five. Everybody's following me. Like, I'm like, I'm the leader. I know what's up. Um, and that's beneficial. And then you get around to like phase two, or even like, oh, maybe you can say like phase three, and you go, oh, hold on, like I've got to step back. I'm
Mm.
like, it's been really beneficial, and it's yeah, tricky, and but also
Yeah.
really rewarding and fulfilling.
I mean, the leadership can go into dictatorship. So, I mean, it's
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think like that is something that I'm very conscious of, especially in performing arts and in dance, the very like old school, sort of like tall European, mean. I don't mean to paint Europeans with a broad brush, because hi, all clearly, that's my ancestry. But like, there's this sort of like, intense ballet instructor who's
hmm
like got a stick and poking and saying
yeah.
things, and like throwing people out of class,
I
and like,
already hear the voice.
right.
Like, I'm
So
like,
like, and the whole idea of like of leading through fear, and
mm.
I've just like completely thrown that out the window. I'm like, I don't subscribe to those
Yeah.
those ways of doing things anymore, because I honestly don't think that they're super beneficial. And as I've moved towards more of a, hey, I'm the leader, but I'm a part of the team. There's no pedestal for me to be on. I'm in it with you, and we're going to work out it together, whether that's like with the staff that I work with or with my students. I'm very much like, whatever team I'm a part of, like I'm a part of that team. To give more equity and to build that trust, and so that there is rapport, and it's not like I'm the boss and you're going to do what I say. And I think you can apply that to parenting. You can apply that to like, your
coworkers, absolutely.
And so, and it makes for a more harmonious sort of space. And that even when there are challenges, like, I work with teenagers all the time. They do not want to take off their hoodies. I'm like, yo, you got to take off your hoodie. So you can do a bunch of jumping jacks and like high kicks, like get your blood flowing faster and like warm up, or take it off and freeze. Like find your, and finding that respect of like, it really is like parenting. I follow a lot of parenting like information because it's like so beneficial.
I suppose so. I suppose so. I have no experience in parenting a teenager yet, but
me neither. So. I just faux parent them within the dance realm. But like even like the information for toddlers, you go red shirt, blue shirt. We're giving them a choice, and it's the same. It's the same thing. We've just we've just put it over here on like 15-year-olds.
100%. One of the books I recommend to my clients the most is actually a book on childhood development.
I love it.
And like how the brain develops and how the brain works. And it's really just crucial information. And you got like, you got to know this. Like, this is going to actually like blow your mind. Now I had such a good question.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Sometimes I have these mom brain farts where I'm just like, whoosh, and everything's gone, and I'm like, what? But it will. Oh yes, it's coming back to me. I'm curious. I agree with. I'm going like full on stereotype when you said like the mean German.
Hit it.
See, if I say it, to me the voice was like a mean German or a mean Russian.
Russian. That is and we've seen it in culture.
It's a stereotype. It's perpetuated. And yes, I love that you said like believing in distributing equity and kind of like being a part of the team. That's also how when I was in corporate, how I led my team. And there were instances, I'm curious how you navigate this, where the lines between leadership or parent and friend, leader and team member gets blurred. And you kind of like have to put your foot down a bit on the leadership side. Like, how do you navigate this? Especially, I know a lot of my clients are bless their heart. I love them. They all know this. Some of them are diehard people pleasers. And when they lead teams, they want to make it as comfortable as possible for everybody, and very admirable. But sometimes they become a bit of like being pushed over. So how do you navigate this space?
Hi. Feel like I'm a secretary of the People Pleasers Club. So
okay.
You can send your I'll get your membership card out to all your
perfect. Yes, please do. Please do. You should do a Slack group.
So for me myself, which is also a bit of people pleasing, perfectionist, procrastination, self-preservation sort of space.
Interesting combination.
I
love the intersectionality of this
ball of yarn. But so my whole goal, as much as possible, is to be as proactive as I can. So really thinking ahead and being like, okay, where could these potential snags, where could these potential tete-a-tete sort of moments come up where I'm going to have to go head to head and be like, yo, yes.
This is not going to fly.
And that's really where the yes and comes in. So the more you can use it, the better. Trust and respect, very important. Without that built up within that relationship, it makes it much harder to put your foot down. Not even as a stomp, like, because as a people pleaser, I don't really want to stomp around. Mm-hmm. And also setting up boundaries that feel okay for me, as a people pleaser. So like, my clients do not have my personal telephone number. So it's like a hard line. You can contact me a myriad of other ways, but that's my home phone number. My friends and my family have that. And like maybe one parent, because like if I'm running late, I have to let them know that I'm late. So when things come to a head, my whole goal is that I have worked hard enough. I have planned hard enough. We have created a safe space where everyone feels trusted and respected, so that when I have to say, I see what you're saying, and this is still the way it is going forward. It comes with a package of, I see where she's coming from. I might not like it, but
yeah,
and that is a tricky part for me. Like, I'm sitting with that in a couple of ways. I've got a student who really doesn't like her costume, and I'm like, we're going to wear it. And she wore it. I'm like very proud of her. I'm like, we've sort of like combated with that, or like, parents who obviously don't see eye to eye with some of the things that like I'd like to do, or my partner and I like to do with the studio. And the best thing is the working relationship up to that point. I think if you can create safety, space, trust, and respect, so that when those things happen, you are working from a platform that makes it feel safe for the people pleaser or leader to say, yes, and this is how it's gonna be. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my partner is a teacher, and like he's teaching like 10, 11-year-olds at the moment.
Yeah.
And always the first class he does is kind of like, these are the ground rules.
Yes. Yep.
These are the ground rules. Do not cross them. Like, this is the line in the sand. Do not cross that. Everything beyond that line, you do you. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And surprisingly, not surprisingly, it works really well for the kids. Of course, you have those. I mean, if I were to be in his class, it would be me, who are like, how far can I like tiptoe over the line,
right,
until I get burned? But usually, it's also helping us to have these like the line in the sand and be like, oh, okay, this is actually what is expected of me, and kind of like to have the expectation management and to know what is going to happen.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's key. That is something that I do at the beginning of the season. So I'm like, and I think if you can take it, I actually had someone describe it to me this way. I thought it was so great, because I was like, oh, like maybe we don't have to wear, like maybe I can be a little slack on uniform, or maybe I, and I had this, I can't even recall who said it to me. I feel bad. I can't attribute to them. But they said, they're like, if you travel to Japan, do you expect that the people there are going to speak English to you? And I was like, oh, of course not. I'm going to Japan. And she's like, right. And like, are you going to be able to order, like, I don't know, like whatever your stereotypical, for me, we'll just lean real hard into the Canadian and be like, are you going to expect them to serve you poutine when you go to like, a sushi restaurant? Be like, no, like that's, I mean, like amazing. But,
that's something like, I could never make friends with poutine. Like, no.
Oh, it's special. It's a special thing. Gravy and cheese.
But
and
you know what I do miss?
Like an ulcer.
Oh God, yes. Oh, it's you know what I do miss though, and I would really be like, oh man, at Tim Hortons sour cream glazed donut.
Yeah.
Like the old
I'm a
school
honey
buttercream, sour cream glazed ones.
I'm a honey
Damn.
cruller girl. I'm not a Tim Hortons
Mm.
person, but the honey cruller, the Boston cream when I was a teenager was the thing, and now I'm like, well, it's too much. But
Yeah,
yeah, like
Boston cream. Mm.
I like the
Oh
chocolate.
man.
But when you travel, when you go somewhere, it would be silly to expect them to meet you
Mm-hmm.
exactly for like
Where you're
you are
at.
going into another culture. You are putting yourself into another culture.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens when we join a team, or when we lead a team. We need to know, what is our culture. We want
Mm-hmm.
to share, this is the culture, this is the expectations, like, welcome to it. um and if not, like, I think that's super beneficial to recognize, like, yeah, this is a different culture. And but that also comes with education, through kindness,
Yes.
of like, not enforcing the rules because you're a dictator, not enforcing the rules because that's the way it is and that's the way it's always been
Mm.
done, which is like my most hated phrase.
Oh
Like, I
God, yes.
just,
I'm
the
like
kid who says why
yeah.
in me goes
Ugh.
like, tell me about it. But it's like, here's the reason, here's the expectation. When you're exist in this space, this is how we function.
Mm.
And then when you go home, you can do whatever you like. That's for you. But like,
Yeah.
in this space, this is what we're all working towards.
Yeah.
Um,
We gotta
yeah,
have
it's
rules
great.
because and one of the rules or one of the visions is share that goal and we're working towards
Yeah,
that. And
yeah,
it's
yeah. And I've
mm,
find the people who are able to step into that, like, and I don't want to say go along or follow, but the people who like work within that,
yeah.
I find they have greater success than the
Hmm.
people who don't, for whatever,
Yeah.
there's lots of reasons, we forget this, or, life throws us curveballs. But the more, when someone offers you that like framework of which to work within, they're really do I most of the time, I really do believe this, they're setting that forward for your success. Like, hey, here are the things that are going to bring you the best experience and the most success in this space.
Yeah.
And I've seen that be true.
And I mean, that's
Like, yeah,
also what you need to
dozens of times.
cultivate as a trust, that people know that you have their best interests at
Mm,
heart, right?
yeah,
And then
yeah.
I suppose you can go incredibly far. So I'm curious. We're talking a lot about like, okay, what does leadership mean? What makes a true leader? And I feel it always comes back to, and then this is kind of like a hypothesis, and I'm curious, what do you think? The the better you know yourself, the better leader you can become.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Mm.
Um, and I'll expand on that a little bit. I
Hmm.
think that's really, really true. And the more I've become comfortable with myself, and the
Mm.
more I understand about myself, it really helps me also share that. Like, I do share that with my clients quite frequently. Like, I'm hyper emotional, and I do tend to be a perfectionist. And I have turned those words from negatives to, I am very passionate and I have a lot of love and I care deeply about this.
Oh, that's a good
Um,
example for flipping the script. I love it. Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I really try not to get into like, oh, she's bossy. I'm like, yeah, I'm bossy. I'm a leader, man. Like, I try to really, because again, this whole thing of like, especially women in leadership, it gets very
You would
dicey
never
where we
call a
want to be
man
like seen
bossy.
as like,
Like
oh,
it's
you're fake.
so insane.
I
Yeah.
know, I know. So like, I'm like, I am passionate and this is my career and this is my
Yeah.
heart and this is what I've
And I
dedicated
want
my
you
life
all
to. And
to be
so,
able to do your best. And
yeah, yeah,
this is how I do it.
yeah.
If
And
this is not the way for you, then
yeah,
that's fine. But
yeah, yeah. And be
oh,
open to trying it. And the more I learn about like the people that I work with, whether they're like parents or even honestly, even just my family, and my students, the more I learn about them, the better I can relate to them, the better I can sort of um, tailor what I'm
mm,
offering them, right? Because one student who really gets fired up, there I have two students who might see themselves as perfectionists, and one of them is really driven by competition. And like that really lights a fire under her. So I'm going to coach her in a different way. I'm going to use my competitive spirit and that little part of me to be like, okay, here's how you can reframe that to like really find success. And then the other perfectionist, instead of it lighting her up and like really like, pushing her to succeed, it makes her shrink and it makes her hide her natural gift. And so I have to use the part of me that like, I'm like, oh, that kid needs compassion and that kid needs to know how very special they are and how incredible I think they are already, regardless of how it goes on stage. So like finding those bits of yourself and then being able to see them in other people, I think that's exactly where you're coming from. Is like the more pieces you see of yourself, then you're able to like relate those nuggets to the people around you. And it all builds trust and respect and community. And then, it makes leadership a little bit easier.
I love this. So let's kind of like, I'm trying to kind of like put it in my words to kind of like really have true leadership. It needs to kind of like encapsulate the essence of what makes a leader not just effective, but also like inspirational and really transformative, right? Because we have people who are inspirational and transformative, but not effective. And that's also not what we want, right? We need direction. We need guidance.
Yeah.
So true leadership, as we now kind of like talked about it in like the past almost hour, is like transcending the boundaries of authority and expertise and having really this enduring commitment to integrity, like being integral to yourself, to the cause, empathy, and innovation, curiosity. You said it a couple of times, like being curious, trying new things. And inspiring others to achieve their fullest potential, right? And not through like coercing them into things or dictating things, but through leading with example and the courage to dream big.
Yeah. Oh, that really, I'm going to go back and listen to that. Like, I'm going to like write that down. I'm gonna, like, put
you want to cross stitch it on a pillow? Like, feel free to. You can quote me.
It's like, it was, I will. I think the way you put that was like so, and I want to like cling on to all those words, but I also just wanted to let it resonate in me.
Let it resonate. Like, sometimes it just needs to resonate.
Yeah. That was really beautiful.
I'm also still resonating. I love this. This is such an this has been such an interesting dance through like what leadership means and how we can learn to be a better leader and like show up for the people. Like, even if you think you're not a leader, there are you're leading people in your life.
Yeah. And I will say, I feel like I should put this caveat out there for anyone. Because I really, up until recently, I would say I really did not like the term. I didn't consider myself a leader. I didn't really want to like dive into that sort of, like, I was a leader in that, like,
so you want to tell me about your self-image issues?
I know, right? 100%. But I think as I've become more comfortable with who I am and finding my leadership style, and which is basically what I've kind of talked about. So like if it doesn't all resonate for everybody, I'm like, good, that's good, because it's just mine. But like find the little nugget that does resonate with you, and then build your own leadership style. But I really didn't like that word for a long time. Because it does have a negative connotation. It does. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But again, I'm just trying to flip the script. I'm like, I'm going to be a leader the way I want to be a leader.
Yeah. I can fill this category however I wanted.
Yeah.
Or that label. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So even if you don't feel like a leader, that's also okay. Like 100%.
Just find a word that resonates with you more strongly.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, I mean, I couldn't ask for a better closing to this episode. I mean, I have two more things before we wrap this up, Leslie. Let us know where people can find you online. Where they hang out.
For sure. I am mostly on Instagram. You can follow my dance journey, my teaching, and my sort of leadership little nuggets. It's literally just my name at Leslie Kuny over on Instagram. Leslie is with IE and Kuny is Kuny. So I'm over there being a giant goofball. And then
a fabulous ball of yarn. Or how would you...
Yeah, a very multifaceted, multicolored ball of yarn.
Love it.
And I'm on Facebook as well. If you search Leslie Kuny Dance Educator, I'm over there. And my website, lesliekuny.com. It's a baby website. Be kind to me, but it also has links to my YouTube where I get to showcase my work, and you can see my choreography and my kiddos.
Exciting.
And watch some dance on YouTube. Watch some not for reality television dance.
Yeah. Okay. Just for the joy of expressing themselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is also, there's also, I mean, we could do a totally different episode on doing something just for the fun of it and not for competition or whatever.
It's
One
huge.
last question. Oh God. Yeah. One last question. I'm always curious because I'm always kind of like, I need new material. What book are you currently reading, or what audiobook are you listening to?
Okay, I'm technically rereading.
That's fine. I mean,
I know,
do this
but
a lot.
Don't want to. I know, because I really kind of ran out of books.
Unless you're like, I'm rereading Twilight, and I'm giving you a bit of a side eye, but I mean,
you should. I'm not. I've never read Twilight.
Oh, I did. I've been there.
Never got into that. I really like autobiography. Can I just plug a book that I think? Oh,
I mean, you could just tell me what you're currently reading. I mean, I have no way of actually fact checking this. So.
But for me and my authenticity, I was like, I don't want to.
That's between you and your authenticity. This sounds like a you problem.
I'm rereading Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. It's wonderful, but what I actually would really like to recommend, because I did just finish reading it, is How to Be Perfect by Michael Schur. He is the creator. How to Be Perfect. The T is on another line. When you see the cover of the book, you'll be like, "Oh, I get it. It's a joke. It's not It's not a manual how to be perfect."
Okay, good. I was a tad worried for a split second. I'm like,
you're like, now what are you going to tell these people?
What version of Leslie did I just talk to?
Fair. No, it's How to Be Perfect by Michael Schur. He is the co-creator of The American Office, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and The Good Place, which if you've watched The Good Place.
I love The Good Place.
Okay, if you love The Good Place.
Is Brooklyn 911 and The Good Place, is that from the same person?
Yeah, so Michael Schur was involved in both of them, and then Michael Schur Michael Schur also worked on The Office, the American version.
Yeah,
he was Dwight's cousin Mose. That's really anyways, just hitting hard on the beet farm. But Michael Schur is a television writer, and the book How to Be Perfect I feel like it's a companion to The Good Place, and he started writing it after he started working on The Good Place, being like, what does it mean to be perfect? These philosophers and these big thinkers of our whole existence.
Yeah.
He breaks it down and he puts it in when it was the most entertaining book to read. I couldn't put it down. And so much of it, I literally.
This is add to cart.
Yeah, 100%. Everybody, I'm never everybody should read this book. If you are in leadership, or even if you just deal with people on a day-to-day basis, it was so beneficial, because as I was reading, I would connect, because they'd be telling me about a different type of philosophy or a way of thinking or a way of functioning in the world. And I go, that's that person. So now I'm like, oh, I'm not mad at that person because I think they're a ding dong. I'm like, oh, they're just working within this realm of and it was brain explosions.
I'm excited.
When I say it was like a textbook, and I would highlight or underline things, or I'm going to talk about this concept with my students, because I think it's so important that they understand this.
Yes.
So that I can't, Michael Schur, if you want to send me money for plugging your book so much, that would be great. But also I just think genuinely.
Or if you're listening to this, you're also welcome to come on the Scenic Route Podcast.
Yeah, right? I'm gonna like at Michael Schur.
Yeah, we could talk philosophy and the good place. I mean, I want to do this. I want to do an episode on the philosophy of the good place. Like seriously, like I'm down for it.
Like so good. Yeah, so like I loved the show, and the book was such a great like expansion and like very like realistic way of looking at it, and very funny. He writes like a person talks. Like I was like, oh, I'm just listening to my friend.
I love
I have a chit chat. It was phenomenal.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that book tip with us.
Of course.
This is gonna go on the Scenic Route library page.
Oh, awesome.
Where you can find it. Leslie, thank you so much for being on the Scenic Route with me. It was an absolute blast to have you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I really, really appreciate it. This was great.
And just like that, we've reached the end of another journey together on the Scenic Route podcast. Thank you for spending time with us. Curious for more stories or in search of the resources mentioned in today's episode? Visit us at scenicroutepodcast.com for everything you need. And if you're ready to embrace your scenic route, I've got something special for you. Step off the beaten path with my Scenic Route affirmation card deck. It's crafted for those moments when you're seeking courage, yearning to trust your inner voice, and eager to carve out a path authentically, unmistakably yours. Pick your Scenic Route affirmation today and let it support you. Excited about where your journey might lead? I certainly am. Remember, the Scenic Route is not just about the destination, but the experiences, learnings, and joy we discover along the way. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you on the Scenic Route again.